Are you stuck trying to decide between the project management professional or the certified associate in project management certifications? My name's Adam. I'm from Osprey Project Management Consulting, and I put together a little info deck for you to help make the call as to which certification is right for you and to learn a little bit more about the requirements of each. So let's dive in. First thing, let's set some context as to what these certifications are all about. The PMP, that's been around for a long time, since about 1984. It's been put forward by the Project Management Institute, or the PMI, and it's been effectively their flagship certification for about 37 or so years. The PMP comes to folks and is awarded after the completion of a project management professional exam. So you have to apply to write the exam, pass the exam, and that's how you get your PMP. Typically, it's for experienced project management professionals, and we'll get into the requirements in just a sec, but what do you need to know? The PMP itself, nowadays, it's going to cover predictive project management, so construction stuff, very waterfall in nature, adaptive project management, or agile, stuff you'd probably find in the IMIT or software development industry, and lastly, hybrid project management, which is a combination of the two key methodologies. With the CAPM, or the Certified Associate in Project Management, that's a little bit newer. That came around in 2003, and it's awarded after the completion of the CAPM exam. So it's the same thing. You do have to apply, and you also have to study and sit and write a long multiple choice exam, and that is awarded to you after the completion of the exam itself. Who's it for? It's best suited for new or interested project managers. So if you're looking to make a career change and you don't yet have the experience in project management, or you're a new grad looking to get started in the career, the CAPM is going to be right for you. It covers all the same stuff: predictive project management, adaptive, hybrid. Key nuance, though, is they also include a good hefty amount of business analysis work. The logic to that is typically those who are best suited for the CAPM might be those who are starting off their career as a BA or business analyst. So it incorporates a lot of those key concepts, key methodology, and key terminology, which is kind of the distinction between the PMP and the CAPM as well. Regardless of which one you choose to go with, it's been found to have about a 16% higher salary for folks with the PMP or the CAPM. So it definitely positions you more marketably in the marketplace. Also, obviously helps you put your resume to the top of the stack if you're looking for a new position. What's cool with both of these things is obviously you're going to get career growth from either one. They are going to give you networking, continuous education opportunities. So through membership with the PMI, you're going to meet a lot of cool new folks. You're going to maintain these certifications long term, so you're going to get continuous education. It's not a one and done. You do have to maintain these certifications, which is, one of the benefits of the certifications is that you're always going to be continually learning. Key thing to note with these certs, and absolutely any certification you choose to go with, doesn't make you an expert. It gives you a good foundation to build upon, but it's not going to make you ready to write or manage a $3 million project if it's the first project you've ever run. So these certifications, they get your foot in the door. They help you speak the language of project management, but it's not the single ticket you need to manage big, complicated projects. You still need work experience and to work your way up. So manage your expectations as going into these certifications. They're going to give you a really good foundational tool set, but you're still going to have to work to get that next job and to apply that education in your job today. So let's take a quick look at the PMP and CAPM requirements. That's probably what most folks are really interested in. So let's chat out which one's right for you. On the left-hand side here, we've got the PMP requirements. So there's 3 sets of requirements that goes into that certification. Set A, high school or secondary diploma and 60 months experience leading projects. Now, the PMI intentionally does not define what leading means, and that's a good thing. Basically, it means you don't have to be titled a project manager in title to get this certification. You just simply need to be accountable or a leader or owner of a component of a project. So you don't actually have to be a PM in title. So you have to have high school diploma, 60 months experience, which also works out to be about 5 years leading projects, as well as 35 hours of project management education. That education could come from an authorized training provider or consulting firms that put on education and training courses. Also, if you already have a CAPM, it fast tracks you. So it removes the education requirement if you're looking to get a PMP. Set B, this is for folks with a bachelor degree or higher. and they require 36 months or 3 years experience leading projects and 35 hours of project management education, and can also waive the education component if they already hold a CAPM. Lastly, Set C. This is for folks with a bachelor's degree or higher from a global accreditation center as determined by the PMI. In order to qualify under this category, the school you went to has to have met the threshold and been identified by the PMI as a school or program that teaches core project management concepts. So it's a little bit harder to squeeze in for the PMP under this unless you have already started your education down the PM career track. With this, you will get expedited with the months that you need to qualify for your work experience. So you only need 24 months or 2 years experience, so it's a little bit faster, but you still also do need 35 hours of project management education. Now, not all GAC centers give you the 35 hours of education. Some of the programs actually have it embedded, so you can waive your 35 hours through your GAC, but not all are created equal. So the PMI is a little bit sticky in terms of which accreditation center waives the education requirements of the PMP. My best recommendation to folks, if you're looking to go through the GAC route, contact the PMI directly and get yourself in contact with a representative to see if you do still have to require the 35 hours of education or if your program is waived. Okay, exam info. Obviously, in order to get to the exam, you have to put in that application. That application we'll go through in a second, but that's going to detail where your formal education came from. It'll detail your work experience, so whatever months you require based on what set. It'll ask you how much or how many projects were you on, what were the dollar value of these projects, what did you do specifically. So it's effectively uploading your resume. We'll get into that in the second half here. The exam itself is 180 multiple choice questions. It's not an adaptive exam, so it doesn't get harder as you go along. The questions are one-to-one. So it's not a computer adaptive exam like your GMAT or your LSAT exams would be. It's just a simple 180 multiple choice exam. That said, some questions are inherently harder than others. Another key thing to note with this exam is of that 180, 15 of those are actually not counted towards your final grade or score on the exam. This is how the PMI tests exam questions for future exams. Bear in mind, of that 180, 15 are going to be taken away from your final score. A lot of folks ask, what score do I need on the PMP exam to actually pass? Now, this is a closely guarded secret by the PMI. They don't actually post what score you need to hit in order to successfully pass. But conventional wisdom and the Reddit gods give us an indication that it's about 80% on the exam in the domains that they're going to test you on. So use that metric when you're doing your practice exam tests and quizzes. If you consistently are hitting 80%, that's a good indicator that you're going to do quite well on the exam itself. Timelines for the exam. You got 3 hours and 50 minutes to write 180 multiple choice questions. They give you 2 10-minute breaks and that's it. So that works out to be about 1 minute and 17 seconds per question in order to complete the exam. A lot of folks fail the exam because they don't finish in time. So if you're not used to managing your time in writing a very long exam, you're going to struggle with this, which is again why writing and getting yourself familiar with writing full-length exams is absolutely key. So in your preparations, sit down and write an exam for 3 hours and 50 minutes to get you in that headspace and that mindset. Also, if you've only got 2 10-minute breaks, you do want to make sure you're a little bit responsibly hydrated, not eating too much, not drinking too much, but also comfortable. You can write the exam in person or online. Once you've passed the screening process and the application process to actually sit and write your PMP exam, they'll give you the option of testing centers nearest you. Sometimes you will have to travel, so bear that in mind if you live in a remote community that doesn't have a testing center nearby. Or you could write online. There are positives and negatives to the online. If you're writing online, if you have a sudden loss of power, for example, that could be seen as cheating and you'll have to rewrite, reapply, and effectively fail the exam on that go. The other thing with online writing of the exam, if somebody were to come into your office, into your room and be seen on camera, that could be seen as an attempt at cheating as well. So you could fail. There's a lot more ways to mess up on the online version of the exam. Also, they will need to get access to your laptop or computer, however you're choosing to write, and install a piece of software that lets them see what it is that you're doing to make sure you're not Googling or what have you. So if you're using a work laptop or a work computer, that's probably going to be a barrier for you. So make sure that whatever device you're choosing to write on doesn't have security restrictions. Ultimately, who gets the PMP? Experienced project folks. You need at least 2 years experience leading projects. Most folks end up applying under the Set B requirement after 3 years experience of leading. Now, for the CAPM certification, there's fewer barriers to entry to this one because it's designed for newer grads, folks looking to make a career change or lack the experience whatsoever. So the requirements aren't as heavy as the PMP. All you need for this is a high school diploma or secondary diploma and 23 hours of project management education. Again, you could go to any consulting firm that offers education and training and get those 23 hours. Because the CAPM doesn't have requirements for years of experience, the application process there is a little bit easier. All you have to do is upload proof of your high school or secondary school education and whatever evidence you were given from your training provider that you've met those 23 hours of education, and that's it. So it's a little bit easier for folks in terms of an application process. The exam itself is 3 hours, so it's a little bit shorter, and it works out to be about 1 minute and 20 seconds per question as well. So time management is going to be absolutely key if you're choosing to write the CAPM. Similarly, you can write in person or online. And of course, those who choose to get it, newer folks to project management, those looking to make a career change, typically it's going to be for coordinators, project coordinators, business analysts, etc. Just a quick snapshot of the actual PMP application form so you get a feel for what it actually looks like. These are the questions they're going to ask you as it pertains to your leading projects. So it's going to ask you job title, org, the methodology that you used, and your project description. On the top right-hand side, they'll have a ticker that'll count down the months of experience that you have. So it's very key that you watch this and make sure you're adding up to the months of experience in order to successfully pass this component of the application for the PMP. One of the things I recommend to my students after training is when they go to apply to write the exam, take a screenshot of the experience section of the application. So they have, one for one of the project title, approach, description, etc. All the questions that you're going to be asked of, and begin to write this offline. So use Excel or Word to input all this information into. The logic there is the PMI will wipe your application within 60 days since you start. So if you have life, kids, commitments, etc., and just for whatever reason begin filling out and don't have time to get back to it, you'll lose all your inputted data. So if you have lots of small projects that slowly add up over time, which would result in many, many entries for your experience, it could be a huge setback. So make sure to write them offline and upload when you're ready. Okay, so now you've taken your education. Now you have to start the process of application. So number one, confirm you're eligible. Just make sure that you meet the requirements. Your education doesn't expire at any time, so that's positive. But just make sure that you have the requisite amount of experience leading projects before you apply to write the exam. Always apply to write the exam. Just do it. The faster you get on your application, the faster it's done and the faster you can schedule your exam. And when you're going to schedule your exam date, tell a friend. Give yourself 1 to 3 months of study time, however. You're not trying to rush yourself too hard, but you do want to set yourself a goal. And if you tell a friend, it'll keep you accountable and make sure that you have somebody aware that you're going to write the exam and will keep you motivated to actually hit your exam date. You can move your exam date if you need to. Building a plan is also key. So again, 1 to 3 months of studying, aim for maybe 10 to 14 hours a week. This is a big commitment for either one of these exams. Make sure to read the PMBOK 7 at the time of this recording and any supplemental texts that could be pertinent to your exam. Now, the CAPM and the PMP do have additional textbooks that you can reference. Not either of these exams are solely referencing the PMBOK 7. So be aware that the PMBOK 7 is a great source of truth, but it's not the only text to reference for either of these exams. Testing yourself is absolutely key. That is how people study for this exam, and it's the best way to prepare for it. So take as many exams as you can. Practice exams, quizzes, what have you. Try to get 80% on the exams to to give yourself an indication of how well you're going to do on the actual exam itself. And don't rely alone on an exam prep course. Now, a lot of folks do make the mistake of taking your 35 hours of education or an exam prep course and schedule to write the exam the next day, thinking it'll be an easy walk in the park. It won't be. The exam prep courses give you a really good foundation, some familiar language, terminology, etc. used in project management, but you still have to dig even deeper on your own in terms of research and individual study. And as I've said throughout this video, exam prep comes down to quizzes and tests, making sure you're hitting the requisite amount of minutes and seconds per question, and pacing yourself, getting in the headspace to write a 3 hour and 50-minute long exam. Lastly, write the exam. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Get a good night's sleep. I wouldn't even recommend cracking a book the night before an exam. It puts too much pressure on yourself. You could psych yourself out, etc. So walk into the exam feeling good, feeling confident, well-rested, and ready to write this thing. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know which certification you're gunning for next. Is it the CAPM or the PMP?